business consulting, and I'm so just happy to be here to have these conversations and have fun and connect with these people and connect with you people and have a good time.
Yay!
Questions?
Yay.
Yes.
Yay.
So thank you for joining us, Miss Inanna.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. It's always my pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So this is just very off the cuff. We don't have any kind of script or anything like that. And
Right.
we are live, so we're not going to be able to answer any questions necessarily in text. But if we do happen to catch something, if you want to put it down in the comments, then we'll try to answer that. But really, I just wanted to give you a platform, and on it to anything that's on your heart that you want to share with us, with what's going on in the world and how we can manage, that would be awesome.
And I'm wondering about people being able to discern what is spiritual warfare versus what are they, are they being fearful on their own, or is this something that's not even mine?
Right.
And trying to get some clarity around those issues.
That's great.
I always tell people, can you trace this thought? If you trace this thought, where are you going to end up? Are you going to end up to one of your life experiences, right? Are you going to end up to a fear you've always had since childhood?
Oh, that's some powerful questions, isn't it?
And so spiritual warfare typically, well, let's just define spiritual warfare as my definition of it. Spiritual warfare is, we know what warfare is, right? We know that whenever countries go to war, it's an attack, usually one side, then both sides. We know what a corporate warfare is. It's when one company is trying to either destroy or take over another company. Spiritual warfare is along that same line, and it's where you have one person or an entity, right, or a group of people who are trying to manipulate, attack, or even destroy the sovereignty of someone or even a group in that case. So spiritual warfare and psychic warfare is where we don't use things like in traditional warfare, like bombs or missiles or guns or not, whatever. It's all energetic. Now, it can be psychological warfare, which, Regina, your specialty is actually narcissistic recovery, right?
Right.
So that would be an area in which psychological warfare is a major game, right?
Absolutely.
And I think some narcissists do have the ability to bring about spiritual warfare as well, because anything that attacks that spiritual sovereignty is in fact spiritual warfare. But we're talking about, at least right now, we're talking about a couple of different things that are happening on the planet that are unique to this time and the situation. And so we're talking about spiritual warfare being perhaps a little stronger than it has been, perhaps in most of our lifetimes, because anything that is creating fear to the point that you are not living a sovereign, happy, healthy, thriving life, could be interpreted as spiritual warfare. But you also have to ask yourself that question: is this my fear, right? Am I being attacked? It is so easy for us to give our sovereignty away and say, I'm just being attacked. I'm under attack. Someone's cursing me. Someone's texting me. Someone's sending me bad energy. These are my fears and these are my thoughts, right?
Sorry, you cut out there for a second.
Oh.
Maybe my fears and my thoughts, but we're talking about spiritual warfare, and we're having
Hold on. I'm going to pop on a different internet. So give me just a second. I might pop out.
Okay.
Okay, we're back.
Yep.
All right. This is why I have two internets.
Good job. Good for you.
Because one of them is always unstable and the other one typically works decent. Okay, sorry about that. But we are in massive solar flares right now, which affects internet, and spiritual warfare will affect internet as well. But so what I was saying is, ask yourself that question: can I trace what's happening to me? Like, to my own thoughts? Like, is this something that I feared my whole life and it's showing up and all of a sudden I've decided it must be spiritual? Or is this something that truly is? And trace the thought. Like if you can trace it to something, like I'm having nightmares of something happening. Don't jump to I'm under psychic attack.
Right.
Ask
Or
yourself,
to I'm crazy and I'm having delusions and I'm having, hallucinations and I need medication.
right. Don't like trace it. Like if you're having recurrent nightmares of being abandoned, right?
Mhm.
Do you have trauma? Do you have complex PTSD? Do you have anxiety? Like these things, aren't necessarily, they can be the result of spiritual or psychic attack or spiritual or psychic warfare, but not always. And so
Right.
ask yourself the question, is this my trauma speaking?
Mhm.
Is this my trauma? And I see people all the time that have been, I mean, to be quite honest, destroyed by by healers, by intuitives, by people that will sell them the quick fix, oh, you're hexed, oh, so and so's hexing you, or so and so's put a spell against you. Here's a $5,000 candle, or I'm going to do this $38,000 spell and I'm going to fix this for you, right? And that's very fear-based as well. But if you have someone that's afraid, they'll do it. They'll do it,
Yeah.
and so you have to be willing to have that honest conversation. Is this my trauma speaking? Or is this something bigger?
Right.
Okay. Trace the thought. Trace it.
Trace the thought. That's great intervention.
Yeah. Trace the thought. If it connects to a fear you've always had,
Mhm.
I mean, chances are it's anxiety, trauma, PTSD, something like that. I'm not saying always, but I'm saying be willing to have that honest assessment and not jump to the devil's trying to steal my soul, evil's trying to get me down. I'm under psychic attack. Just be willing to have an honest evaluation of yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and keep being mindful. I mean, kids, if we don't learn how to stay in the moment and practice love, self-love and find joy, we're going to be in big trouble.
Right. Exactly. And so
This learning game is important.
discernment is a spiritual gift, and it's actually outlined, in the Bible in 1 Corinthians chapter 12 by the Apostle Paul. And that is a discernment of spirits. And so that is really important. And we have people all the time, kind of fooling with stuff they shouldn't be fooling with, but that's a different topic for a different day.
That's another podcast for a different day.
It is. So let's move past. You have done the work, you've done the assessment, this is not your trauma speaking, something else is going on. There's
Right.
a lot of things happening on this planet right now that certainly, do lend a lot of validity to spiritual and psychic attack happening on a mass scale at this time. Okay.
Mhm.
So let's go there. Let's say I've already had the honest conversation. I've already looked. I truly believe that this is spiritual warfare, psychic warfare, spiritual attack, psychic. What do I do? Okay.
Yes.
First and most important thing is you've got to find a way to deal with your fear around it.
Yes.
Fear is a battery. Little hints are sometimes hidden in things around us. We call them activations. Or do you remember the movie Monsters Inc., the children's movie?
Yes.
What did the quote monsters use for power?
Exactly. I've
Screams.
said this for years. Yeah. I've used
Fear,
this as,
right?
yeah, example.
So if you are under psychic attack, what is the one thing that could truly make it worse?
Believing it.
Fear. Yeah. Fear around
Fear.
it.
Believing
Giving
in
into
whatever
it,
you're
yeah.
seeing is going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. If you
Mm.
believe that this spiritual attack is more powerful than you,
Mhm.
more powerful than the universe, or more powerful than God, or more powerful than spirit, right? Then you
Mm.
are at a major disadvantage,
Absolutely.
because you've already lost your sovereignty.
And that's key. You've got to become sovereign and know that you are worthy, know that you are sovereign, know that you are divinity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't
That's
power
right.
away.
And
Mhm.
so there was I just love to talk movies. I've always been like this huge movie fan, and I don't get much time to watch TV at all anymore. So I have to go to like the old stuff. But there was a movie years ago with Kate Hudson called Skeleton Key. Either one of you see it?
Nope, I haven't seen that one.
Anyone watching this see it?
Watching,
Okay.
see that movie?
So Skeleton Key, and it's old, so I don't even worry about ruining it for you. So if you didn't watch it, that's just too bad because I'm going to tell you about it. So Skeleton Key, Scott and I are both just huge Kate Hudson fans. We just think she's adorable. And so she was in this movie, and she was a caregiver for this elderly couple. And And they're in this home out in, Karen said she did, in Louisiana. And so it's like in the home of all this, like either hoodoo or voodoo, and there's all this magic and brick dust. And like she kind of gets sucked into this world, right? And she doesn't believe in any of this stuff, right? And so at the end of the movie, when you find out the magic is real, the body seal is real, everything's real, you know, they're like, well, we weren't waiting on us to believe in this magic. We were waiting on you. Because
Uh-huh.
if you believed it was real, we could use our magic on you.
Yeah.
That was it. As soon as you believe it's real, as soon
That's
as you
exactly
believe
right.
that magic is real, it can be used on you.
Your belief is everything that is everything.
Your
What
belief.
you choose to believe is what dictates your personality and your personal reality.
That's right. Joe Dispenza.
Mm-hmm.
Your personal reality dictates your personality, and knowledge is a precursor to experience.
Your
So
belief dictates all of that.
if you believe, if you are someone who believes, then you have to know what you believe and why you believe it.
I
And you
agree.
cannot give away your sovereignty.
I
Not give
agree.
it
Agree.
away.
And I would like you to, I'm being reminded, I would like you to review that whole concept around if it's not true for you, it's not truth, period. And that
right.
there's only so many basic universal truths that you can, that you can stand on.
Absolutely. We well, Gina, you were there. So the idea that if something isn't true for you, it's not true. You were there with our friend Brenda when I floated.
Yes. Yes, it was the
Both
most
sides.
remarkable. I still get
I just
goosebumps.
floated. I just floated like this for what, about 3 seconds, and then just gently kind of went to the ground. Just like gravity didn't apply. Screw gravity, right? But like, who cares about gravity? But it was a situation in which I would have fallen, and spirit was there to help me out. And so instead of falling off this porch, I just floated, and I felt it. But they both watched it and were going,
I was dumbfounded.
they
I
were screaming, "You
absolutely,
floated!" And I was like, so let me ask you that. So, like, what in the universal law of gravity in that moment did not apply to me that allowed me to bend the rules? My belief in magic.
your belief in magic, your belief in divinity, your belief in your safety, that you are safe in this world.
That's right. It's that belief. And so when it comes to this kind of stuff, if it's not, I mean, if you absolutely truly do not believe in it, you do not believe in it, it is not true for you, it is not true for you. And that means that the same thing is true for like synchronistic events, spiritual messages, divine intervention. If I don't believe in any of that, you know, and I don't let it in, then guess what? I'm not going to get any of it because I don't, it's not in my matrix.
I cannot imagine you without your magic. That just doesn't compute.
Well, it's easy for me, I'm Pisces, water sign, empath, intuitive. It's easy for me to believe in magic, and I live it. And because I believe in it, I live it every single day. I see things all the time that, other people don't get to experience because they don't believe it's true for them.
Mhm, mhm.
What you believe is true for you. One of the really big beliefs I had to take a long time ago is this. I don't believe that there is any power, beyond the power I serve that is
But
strong,
like
right?
I love that.
And so whether I call that power universe, source, creator, God, Holy Spirit, sacred spirit, I don't care, whatever you call it. But if my belief is that that is the ultimate power, and I mean truly, I mean, you have to walk the talk, right? It's not just enough to give it lip service.
Right.
And so if you're walking the talk and you believe that, right, then you are not as susceptible to spiritual warfare and psychic attack because your belief system does not allow it.
Well, and your vibration, if you're happy, if you're joyful, if you're grateful, it can't get in.
Right.
I will say that it comes by, or at least this is how I have experienced it, because I brought this up to you, Inanna, last week, I think it was, because I was experiencing some things that I knew was psychic warfare or spiritual warfare because it's not mine.
Right.
Why I think that tracing the thought is perfect, because if you trace it and you didn't, it's a dead end, then it's not yours.
Right.
And
That's right.
you are a receiver. You're going to get some thoughts that aren't yours. And so
Right.
I recognized that these thoughts, and I mean, they were horrible, violent, gruesome. I was so grossed out by them. And then that's when I recognized, oh, these are not mine. Return
Yeah.
to sender. with pica. These are not mine. And
Right.
then I began to worry. Well, I didn't let myself worry too hard, but began to worry about those out here who they don't understand that those thoughts aren't theirs.
Right.
And that freaks them out as to, well, why in the world did I have that thought? So that's what birthed the idea and the inspiration for this podcast.
Right. And you know, micro the macro, right? And so you have to remember that there's always, you know, energies around you that aren't yours that are part of the bigger system.
Mhm.
And then there's the energies around you that are yours. And that, again, tracing the thought helps you know, because right now, and I don't know how far down the rabbit hole you know you guys want to go or whatever, but what I will say is there's more interference, you know, in the hologram or the 3D construct than we've seen in our lifetimes. We are
Right.
being completely barraged by negative programming, fear programming. Everything right now is trying to pull us out of our place of power. You know, this morning I did a video where I said, you know, turn off the TV, stop looking at the stuff happening, you know, all over. We can, you know, the stuff going on in the Middle East, the stuff going on, the flooding and all over the planet. It's not just Florida. It's all over, you know, and not even just, you know, North Carolina and South Carolina and what was it? Which one got hit?
So,
Carolinas, Tennessee, Georgia, you know, all those areas that really just got hit. We also have mass flooding over in like things like India. We have all of these things happening all over the planet. And because of internet, because of global news access, you know, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, we would not have been or had our energies insulted and assaulted, both, right? Insulted and assaulted 24/7 by things that are happening on the other side of the planet. But
mhm.
now you have 24-hour news giving it to you
Well,
continuously.
and it's my understanding that you can I mean, people are posting videos of people caught up in this disaster,
Mhm.
and it's, they're at a precarious place in their ability to stay alive, and
Right.
they're
Well, some
posting
people actually
videos.
uploaded their final moments. Yes. Um,
Yes, and
live
don't
streaming,
watch that stuff.
asking for
Do
help.
not watch that stuff.
Yeah. Screaming for help. Because if you've ever heard of Power versus Force, by Richard Hawkins, there's a handy little map of consciousness in there. And that
Mhm,
handy little map of consciousness actually has all of these numbers. And so you can see, like, what am I feeling? And you can look up the emotion and see where you are on the consciousness scale.
mhm.
Anything below love, right, doesn't hold for you. Anything below love is not holding a fifth dimensional energy. It's not holding the frequency of love. It's not holding Christ
Right,
consciousness.
that's
So
right.
staying at the frequency of love, which has actually been measured to be 528, is
Mhm,
what is really important right now. Staying at that frequency of love, staying above that 5D line, that fifth dimensional line, that love line, you know, keeps you out of it. And if you are getting inundated with the suffering energy, with the trauma energy, with the pain energy, because there's plenty of it going around, and the fear energy, you know, you
yeah,
are prime pickings for spiritual warfare, for psychic.
absolutely,
Right,
absolutely.
right.
And then you
Staying
allow
in that
your
vibration.
Yep.
yeah, you let yourself go down that rabbit hole and spin out of control. It's
Yep.
gonna be hard to pull out of it.
Absolutely. It absolutely will be. And there's a lot of things spiritually happening right now. There's like some psychic, you know, nets have failed. There's all kinds of things happening. Um, there's a lot of spiritual warfare happening. But my question to you isn't happening. My question is, how do you make yourself impervious, right? How do you make
Yeah,
yourself so you're not a target so that you're not getting hit? And of course, the only answer to that is walking in your truth, walking in your sovereignty, and walking in your power.
that's
Don't
exactly right.
don't entertain a fool, right?
Mhm,
You know, and that's kind of what we're being asked to do. Years ago when I started doing psychic readings, I was really kind of afraid. You know, being psychic as a child and being a medium and being able to see spirits, you know, sometimes you would see people as they were passing or their final moments, and you know, you'd see people damaged, their bodies damaged in various forms. You know, you'd see to broken bones or missing body parts or whatever. And so I was very afraid of these spiritual gifts and what they meant. So when I made my deal with God, which was to pursue, you know, this, I very clearly had just work with one angel, Archangel Michael, and no one else. That's a safe angel for you to work with. So for years, for probably about 3 years, I only worked with Archangel Michael. And even though there's a lot of archangels and they all have specialties, Michael was my go-to for everything. That was the voice I could hear the clearest. That was the safest I felt, was working with Michael. And for years, Michael was it. I knew that as long as I kept my eyes on Michael, nothing else could get through. And
Yeah.
so working with Archangel Michael, helped me develop that foundation that then allowed me to work with the other archangels and other spiritual ascended masters and higher level dimensional beings, without I had built in that discernment. So without getting tricked by someone or something. Because a lot of times when people start getting a little bit of intuitive ability, it's like, "Oh, anyone want to talk?"
Quite right.
There'll always be somebody wanting to talk.
Yes,
You
yes.
gotta know who
They
you're
seem to
talking to. That's
find
get
me
the
in
discernment.
the bath or the shower.
Yeah, right. And so you do have to know who you're talking to. And just like we can, have prayers and rituals that are good, there are people that can have prayers and rituals that there are people that honestly believe that the only path to power is one where they make a deal with something dark.
Yeah, that must be our leadership.
Well, I've been that way for a very long time.
Yes. All the leaderships matters
Yeah.
not.
Matters not.
It's a
Matters
very system. It's not going to matter who sits in the seat.
Well, the powers behind anyway.
Yeah, it's behind the curtain. The
Those are
person
just,
in the
yeah.
seat, puppet.
Those are
Anyway.
just, like figureheads. Those are like the Wizard of Oz, right? Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yes.
Look out here to the great and powerful Oz, and yeah, same kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That those powers behind, and they're the ones that do a lot of the controlling, and they're the ones that, if you trace, us up, our society up, we don't live in a democracy or a republic. We live in an oligarchy.
Oligarchy, absolutely.
And we have for a very long time. And, so many other countries do as well. Just some of the oligarchs care more about their population than others.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know that sometimes the belief is happier people are easier to control. And then some people believe that fearful people are easier to control. And it depends on your oligarch. Ours seem to be here in the United States. It seems to be we like fearful populations that are easier to control.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that scene from, there were lots of scenes from The Matrix I really like, but the one where Morpheus is saying, I can show you the door, but you're the one that has to walk through it, right? And then when they're in that simulation with the woman in the red dress, he's saying, you look around and what do you see? You see everyday people, teachers, bankers, lawyers, doctors, mothers, whatever. And you see them, and until they're free, they're still part of that system.
Yeah.
Right. And they'll fight to protect the very system that is keeping them trapped or keeping them enslaved or keeping them afraid. So they don't know anything else. The fear of the unknown.
Yeah. I loved it when you used the line in one of your classes, maybe all of your classes, where that whole scene, the fight scene in the Matrix movies, and Morpheus looks at Neo and says, do you think that's air you're breathing, Neo?
Do you think that's air you're breathing?
Yeah, that's a powerful, profound
kind
of insight right there.
I mean, do you think that's a demon you're fearing?
Exactly.
Do you think that's a devil trying to steal your soul?
Yes.
Do you think that thing has more power than you? Do you think
Exactly.
that thing is more powerful than what's standing behind you? Those are great questions to ask.
Yes. Well, and one way to demonstrate this is, whatever your intention is, whatever
Struggling with my sweater here.
I love that sweater. I think it's
Sweater
adorable.
struggle bus.
But whatever your intention is in any given situation, with any situation, your intention is more important than anything else that you do.
Right. Right.
If you sit down to a triple fudge chocolate something and you are already feeling guilty because you got the fork in your hand, you're already feeling guilty, you're already feeling bad about all those carbs and all that fat and all them calories, then your body's going to want to reject what you're feeding it. But if you sit down with joy in your heart, with acceptance and love, and know that you're going to enjoy every freaking yummy bite of that, then your body is going to welcome it.
Yeah.
You are truly the power.
You are the power.
Own that.
Yeah. You know, I've had many clients that have gone through, you know, multiple medical procedures, medical treatments without any kind of side effect, you know, because they took ownership of their body and they told their body exactly what to do in that procedure or that medical treatment. And that's what I like Dr. Joe, knowledge is a precursor to experience. So if you can sit down and understand the process, take sovereignty over your body, right? And make sure it understands what's going to happen and then have the experience, you have a much stronger say in that outcome because knowledge, you know, is the precursor to experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Same thing with rituals, you know,
Mhm.
it's that belief in a ritual that gives it power. So you can always piggyback off the battery, which is where a lot of people believe in it, right? So let's talk about let's choose some examples from a lot of different beliefs. So let's start with the rosary, right? And
Right.
so rosaries have sort of like a built-in battery because so many people around the world believe in them. So many people use them as part of their daily spiritual practices. They pray to
That's
them, they go to
become
the
an
beach.
archetype, wouldn't you think?
Huh?
Collective-
Yes, collective consciousness done. The rosaries would become a collective archetype. Not
It's
unlike
I would
Mother.
call it a program.
Say it again.
It has its own program.
Yes,
So when
that's
you run that program, it does that thing for you, right? And
yes.
then for Protestants, and well, I guess Catholics too, but it's usually, you know, Christ on the cross, right? The
Mhm.
crucifixion that they will have on their walls or, you know, on their chains, minus the ankh, which is life, by the way, that you can do. And then, so you think about, okay, those things are already have built-in belief systems around them, right? Now let's talk about anointing oil and holy oil.
Oh,
Built-in belief systems, right? I know
yeah.
people that when they're looking at a house, if they see anything that looks like oil above a door frame, they run because they know
Ah,
the house has been blessed. You know,
Wow.
they're out because there's a belief system or what, a program around that thing.
yeah,
And so when we, you know, let's say that I'm going to use sage to clear myself. Why does it work?
because you believe that it does.
I believe it does. There's a lot of people that believe it do. It has that programming built in that if I light this sage and I clear myself, I am connecting to thousands of years of history of powerful beings that have used it before me. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's rich.
That's rich. You know, at the same time, so what happens when I use something that is more of a, well, I mean, the crucifix on the cross, in my opinion, is a pain, as a pain suffering energy. So what happens when I go there?
Mm.
What am I connecting to? Instead of connecting to the love of Christ, I'm connecting to the suffering of Christ,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
So all kinds of systems exist all over. It's what you believe about them and what you're going to put your energy into. Same thing with Regina, you were a Young Living. I don't know about you, Jim, but you know, Sacred Mountain. That's the one that you would use whenever someone had truly dark entities on them or in their home. Sacred Mountain was the one that could fend off demonic entities, so forth,
Mhm.
right? Sacred mountains that was harvested on that very specific mountain. And that was an entire belief system around that oil that allowed it to work in those situations.
Yeah,
So what happens if we don't have agreed upon belief systems for things, right? Some of these belief systems serve us well, right? I love the smell of sage. You know, I have my own practices with it. The second I smell it, it takes me, you know, to that place of clearing, that place of rejuvenation, of you know, being cleared. But what if it didn't, you know? What if it had nothing with it? What if I use that in a way on someone that had no history, no knowledge, and they're just like, I don't even know what you're doing. Why are you doing that?
right.
Knowledge is the precursor to experience. You know, we have to explain what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so,
And I think it's important to jump in and say that this is why it's so important to believe in your safety with everything that's
yes.
coming down the pike. You have to know that you are safe in this world.
Mhm.
1000%.
Yeah, and what you
1,000
believe.
million
Your
percent.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Because if you don't, you know, then I can remember there was a young woman a long time ago that I did a lot to help. And this was before I was really working as an intuitive. This was my social worker days.
Mhm.
and fought really hard to keep this woman and her child together. And even after I left social work, I still worked really hard to make sure that they were okay. Getting services donated, money, whatever they needed. And she had joined, after this trauma, had joined a fear-based church. And she posted that morning that, the devil was trying really hard to get her that day. And please, pray for me. The devil's trying to get me. He's trying to steal my soul. Pray for me. And, I knew the history. I knew the trauma. It's like, what if it's not the devil? And what if it's just your trauma? Immediately got me unfriended, by the way.
Uh-oh.
Sure.
Sometimes people just cannot handle the truth.
Right.
Well, I mean, because the truth is that, it's, yes, there are
Giving us our
entities.
way constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are entities that will come at you. There's dark things out there, but a lot of times it's just us not dealing with our bullshit.
Oh, amen.
You know,
Out.
we have to deal with our bullshit.
You have to
Yeah.
face the shadow. You have to do the shadow work.
We have to do the work. And in this case, I mean, this was someone who had so much trauma. I mean, it was an indescribable amount of trauma. And it was so much easier for this person to say, the devil's trying to steal my soul. The devil's trying to get me, than for her to say, I have lived a really fucked up life. I have a shit ton of trauma. I've never been willing to deal with it. So I'm just going to have this church reach out and they'll fight for me and they'll pray for me because I'm under attack. But if they knew my trauma and I need to go to therapy, then maybe they wouldn't.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the way we give away our power. We're like, there are attacks. I'm the one that's called out when they are there. That's a huge part of my life. I have had a woman climb up my wall, like gravity just did not fucking apply to her. And like her hands were like claws and she was hissing and
Oh gosh.
so
I
traumatic.
my career would have been ended that day.
That was the last week I worked out of home. Back then, I was like, I'm out. I'm gonna have to get an office. That was when the kids were
I
little. It was
think I'd end
right
up.
underneath Avery's bedroom was where my office was, and I'm like, that's the last time I work here. And I
Oh
remember
boy.
battling this thing for like hours. I was so tired. She was unconscious from the removal, and I remember like crawling on my hands and knees into that other living room and just collapsing on the floor.
Oh my gosh. Did she say collapsed in your office?
She did for a little while, and when she came to, she had very, very, very vivid imagery that she wanted to process about what happened and so forth. So I'm not saying like it doesn't exist. Of course it does. I have seen things that would just scare the fuck out of most people.
Well, it scares me just to hear about it.
Like that's not even the worst.
I know. I
You know,
remember
like
another story about the creature that was right there in your face, and you were like, I'm ignoring you. I'm not
right, I'm
going
not
to.
going to engage, right? Because I'm not going to give you my power.
Yeah. Oh, I'd have
Right.
screamed.
No, I'm the one that they call when that shit goes down. And, I'm the one that really determines if it's a real psychic attack or if it's just someone's trauma.
Yeah.
Now, with poltergeist, just so we're clear on this, it is October. A poltergeist is when something, like you have a lot of trauma, you have a lot of psychic energy, you usually have a psychic teenager with a lot of hormones. All of that creates an energy that is formed of psychic debris, and psychic debris is what we throw off of us, right? And
Right.
so that psychic debris actually individuates and becomes its own entity. And that's why poltergeists typically have one victim. It's the person where they got the psychic debris from. It's part of them, right? Think of it like a mirrored version of their most broken pieces. Now, that's a different thing. That's not demonic. That's actually a piece of their own broken psychic energy coming back at them. But a lot of times, you can make someone very upset if you say this isn't actually a demon attacking you. This is, this piece of trauma, or this is hysteria, right?
Right.
Because some people will want that excuse. Well, it's not my fault. I'm under psychic attack, instead of being
Yeah.
willing to do the
Yeah,
work.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I'm the one that typically goes out and says, this is, yeah, you got a problem, or no, you don't. And I had so vague. I'm going to be so vague. I'm in a vague book. I got called out to a situation in which a homeowner was stepping off the porch and felt something grab their ankle, and they fell down and broke a wrist. Went surgery, cast, everything. Like a few days later, did it again, grabbed the other ankle, fell down, broke the other wrist.
Oh, no.
And so that's when I get called in, right? I'm like, oh yeah, you got a problem. So I go in, have all these candles lit, everything, and I'm doing my clearing and doing my thing. And look, all the fucking candle flames turn black.
Oh.
And I'm going, so really like staying so calm, right? In my own spirit, Archangel Michael, somebody quick, hurry. What is happening? And they explained it was a specific type of earth energy that they were calling like a dominion, because it had dominion over that large piece of land. And it was angry at this person for some reason. And so that's not actually something. Now there might be other things people call this. So I'm just gonna be really specific. People have lots of terms, different terms for different things. This is what Spirit told me. I get my information directly from Spirit. I don't like, Google or whatever. I just, Spirit called it a land dominion. I trust Spirit. And I said that these actually belong to the land and cannot be removed. And I'm like, okay, so what do we do? I said, well, you bargain, And so we made a deal that she would be able to live there and I picked a number of decades that would far exceed her life, right? And then the Dominion could have the space back, and hopefully whoever moved in after that was okay with this thing. So a couple of times I've had to make deals with them, and their lives are much longer. And those are earth spirits, by the way. They're really not demonic. They're not individual entities. They're land protectors that after you, like, so say Oklahoma, for example, where you have a lot of trauma on the land, you have the Trail of Tears, you've had what's happened to the first Americans there, you've had a lot of trauma going back, hundreds of years. So that land holds a lot of trauma energy. So the dominions of those spirits can hold it too. So you have guardians and you have dominions. So this one was a dominion over that space. So we made a deal, they were able to continue living there. And it agreed to leave them alone. Now, if this person ends up living 200 years, they're fucked. I only negotiated that deal for 100 years. So
Yeah.
but it didn't, it's not that it was trying, it was just angry. Didn't like the person, didn't like the energy, didn't like them being on their land.
Right.
So that's just a totally different, kind of energy, kind of entity. So there's all kinds, and so sometimes, yes, it is very much a psychic attack, spiritual warfare, from an entity or from a land spirit or I had a guy one time, oh my God, this asshole, sorry, near Shawnee had been playing with things he shouldn't have played with. And he actually legitimately did he summoned a demon. And that's not real easy to do, just so you're clear. It's not real common, just so you're clear. But somehow this motherfucker had just managed to figure it out, right? It was knocking shit off his walls, causing chaos, making him sick. He almost died. So being the very loving person he was, he offered up his elderly neighbor as a sacrifice.
Oh.
And so this thing possessed her that it came to me from, multiple people to go help this woman. The request came in. So I had, my protocols put in place. Like I had her inside a circle of salt and all this stuff before I got there so that, it couldn't get out. And one of my friends who is a total non-believer, by the way, it's not that she doesn't believe, it's that she's not a disbeliever. She just hasn't seen it. Right. So she goes with me. And I'm starting to remove the thing and motherfucker, and did this, and blood went all over the kitchen and it bit me. And I had 2 little puncture wounds on these fingers, but really deep, and it made it bleed a lot all over the kitchen. And she goes, nothing was near you to make that happen. I said, not a skeptic anymore, huh? It's like, out.
Yes.
Yeah, because you can see the puncture wounds on my hand. So this poor woman, I had to remove this thing off of her and I got it off. But, the PTSD from having been sacrificed and possessed, was just awful. And I could see the nightmares this thing was giving her over and over again. And so, that's one type that's less common, a psychic or spiritual attack, is where somebody summons something and this thing's going to give them the world, and it's not. Now they don't have control over it. Now it's, it's causing havoc in their lives. So the best thing they can do is offer up someone else. Well, here, you can have this woman next door, which is a asshole thing to do. I will say, I think it left her severely, not well, just having it on her for the time it did. So that's a form of psychic attack. But I want to emphasize those are rare. I mean, I've seen 2 of those in, 20 years. So they're not common. Most of the time, those are going to be more like psychological warfare,
Yes.
fucking with
Well,
someone.
and what worries me is that one of the symptoms that I recognized as spiritual warfare was a huge wave of sadness and depression.
Yeah.
I'm not sad. I'm not depressed. So what's that? Fortunately, I was able to discern the fact that this isn't mine.
Right.
And I returned to sender with Pica. Pica, sends the lesson back to them. But for all of those folks out in the world who don't know that, who feel this wave of depression and then worry that it's them.
Right. That's part of that programming we were talking about earlier that's being released right now. From the weather to the wars in the Middle East to like all of those things there. Those programs are meant to pull you out of power.
Mm.
You let yourself be susceptible to those energies. Those energies are always going to tell you there's far more wrong in the world than is right. And I'm here to tell you that's not true.
Agreed.
We get to choose. I want to emphasize you get to choose the experience you have. We're not taught that. We're told that you live in a world in which you're powerless. You're told that you live in this world where you don't have a say. You're told that you live in this world where, the people with the money make all the rules, right? The oligarchs. You're told you live in this world where there's always going to be someone smarter or someone prettier, or someone more brilliant. They're going to be someone, whatever it is. I don't care. Those things are always meant to disempower you. They're always meant to make you feel less than. They're always meant to make you feel like you have to stay inside this little box or settle or whatever that is. So when those energies hit you, and they, by the way, they come from multiple ways. One, of course, through TV, through social media, by design, they call it television programming for a reason, right? It's meant to program you. So if it's television programming, and then we look at, okay, so that's one way. But what about when we're talking about like social media, when people start telling us what life should be like? Go look at your social media feed. And that's going to tell you where your attention's been going. Remember where, your attention and your thoughts go, your body follows.
Yes.
And so you want to make sure that your attention and your thoughts are going to where you want them to be and not to where you don't. And I can tell you, I ended up in trouble one time down a rabbit hole watching. Well, okay. First of all, was watching the people that eat all the food in front of the camera, which I still don't understand. I fully admit to that. I don't get it.
That either. Have you seen that stuff?
Is it?
And like getting dressed in front of the camera, like trying on outfits and stuff, and
Yeah.
then half naked before that. Like I just
Yeah.
wanted the whole movement.
Yeah. I don't like, is it mukbang? Am I saying that right? I don't know. But like that, I don't get it, So like I ended up on a rabbit hole there. And then I ended up, because I was like trying to feel accomplished. So I watched these young moms clean their houses, right? Or prepare food. Then before I knew it, I was on this whole and this is like single mom of 4 in the trailer park cooks dinner, right? And that's all my news feed showed me was like, people that were financially struggling that were making food. That was it, and by the way, I think I've lived in a trailer park. You've lived in one. So like, that's not, I want to make sure it's not, I don't want to get hate mail about saying that, but that's literally was the title of the video. Single mom of 4 in a trailer park cooks dinner. That was the title. And by the way, she's now has lots of money because everybody watched her videos and so Facebook monetized her. So now she has a new house. So there you go.
She has like a coffee and everyone's going crazy. It's like it's viral, like dare or whatever
Really?
type thing. Like what do they call it? Challenge or whatever.
Yeah. So check your social media feed. Okay.
Mine's full of narcissistic
Yeah, of course it is, because that's
conversations.
okay. Well, mine's full of like psychic things because that's mine too. But like really check it, especially, if you're not looking at your career, right? Because yes, and Megan just said the analogy of our algorithm and how our energy creates reality. 1,000%, right?
1,000%.
You have an internal algorithm that is always bringing those experiences to you. That is always bringing those experiences. So what you watch on Facebook, what you put your energy to, if I go to YouTube, it's 2 things. It's Joe Dispenza and it's healing frequency. Those are the only things that ever show up on my YouTube. It's it. That's it. That's all that ever, shows up there. And that's because those are the only things I ever watch there. So it's the same thing. What you put your energy and your focus on is what's going to pop in your life. Pay attention. Don't go unconscious. Don't let it just be whatever. Don't doom scroll. Don't, oh, what kind of rabbit hole am I going down? And oh, I'm going to end up watching. There is a whole part of the truther movement, right? That is disempowering. Like you end up in this place where you're like, well, there's nothing I can eat that's not genetically modified. There's no businesses I can buy from that aren't part of the problem. This is bad. This is bad. And you end up going, you know what? I just wanted to be informed and now I don't even know what to do because I'm so overwhelmed with finding out everything in the world is terrible.
Right.
I say it all the time. All we can do is bless our food and bless our lives. Bless us stay focused on the good, staying gratitude. That's really
Right.
all.
Well, and knowing that you are divinity manifested, no enemy can be formed against you unless you allow it.
Yeah, no, enemy formed against you shall prosper. And that is, because you are focused on your stuff, right? Keep it at home. Keep it at
Yes.
home.
Yeah.
Know where your energy is going. Know what's sacred. Know what you want to protect, right?
Yes.
Touch on just briefly, because I think you guys wanted an hour, right? Well, we're at an hour.
Yes.
Okay, so looking at the narcissist thing, because that is in fact your expertise. And so I do believe that in cases where like the one partner or hopefully ex-partner has an NPD or strong narcissistic tendencies. So their psychological warfare can actually cross into psychic warfare.
Well, that's exactly what gaslighting is psychological warfare.
Yeah. And that can cross right into psychic.
Absolutely.
You know,
Especially when you've got the buy-in of the victim.
That's
because
right.
energy is lending to the truth of it.
That's right. They're creating your paradigm.
Yes.
Now, unpopular opinion, but it is true. I want you to understand that everyone that you're intimate with, you are sharing energy with.
Yes.
And
not.
right. You're mingling energy. So, I am someone that I'm like, you choose for you. If you want to have a different sexual encounter every single night of the week or 10 or none, right? I'm all about your ability to choose for you in your life. What I will tell you is you need to be clearing yourself.
Yes, you've got to be mindful.
You are intermingling some of those sacred energies when
Yes.
you are intimate with someone. And so that gives them both directions kind of a power over each other, right? Because you're taking that, that root chakra, that sacral chakra, a tad bit of that solar plexus, hopefully a little heart actions involved. Definitely, if it's a good time, you're involving your pineal and your crown. What's happening? It's as
You're
well.
wiring and firing and firing and wiring.
Right.
And what I can tell you about, being intimate with a partner too fast is that you become sexually bonded. And if something in the relationship begins to deteriorate, the sexual bond keeps you hooked into a toxic dynamic.
Because the sex is so good.
Sexual trauma bonding.
Yes. Boom.
Right. Or trauma sexual bonding. I don't care which way you flip it, but it's the same thing.
Exactly.
Right. And a
Exactly.
trauma bond with a narcissist that's capable of psychic or spiritual warfare is probably one of the most dangerous places for you to be in.
One of the most dangerous places to be in.
You're going to need a full-on exorcism.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
a bank of therapists.
Yeah, that's right. You're gonna need that from both sides, because it's true. And so, you've got to protect your energy. And this includes, physical. And, we know that when you exchange bodily fluids with someone, that DNA enters you, but think about the psychic part.
Yes.
Think about it,
Absolutely.
It's profound. It's profound.
Yeah. Let's not go there and open up that can of worms. But yeah, you've got to
Another
protect your
episode.
energy and you've got to stay grateful. You've got to stay calm in
Right.
your body, stay in the moment, stay grounded. We've got to take better and better care of ourselves.
Yeah, we have to become sovereign. If I could leave just one thought with everybody, myself included, please practice sovereignty. Please.
Yeah.
We are at a critical moment in humanity, in our ascension, in our path. And
Yeah.
there's never been a more critical moment for you to must walk in sovereignty. You must.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, and if you're not walking in sovereignty, you know, then you are giving away all of your power to what you don't want.
And you're
You
the
know,
only one that can exercise your sovereignty. You're the
you are
only
the
one
only
that
one.
can own it.
You know, stop waiting on someone to come along and say you are special or you are anointed or you are power or validating for you, right? You're the only one who can do that for you. We get trapped. You know, I'm waiting on some big sign.
Yeah. Well, and I also want to jump in here with, it's difficult. And sometimes you get into that, well, I don't know if I'm healed yet, or am I praying correctly, or am I meditating right?
Right.
No, if you get up every day and your prayer is thank you, it's enough.
That is enough. Unless, of course, you're awakening the serpent, pulling the mind of the body with Dr. Joe. And then that's going to be something. No, just teasing.
Yeah,
Just a
no,
Dr. Joe fan. And if you've ever hit that where you pulled the mind out of the body or the awakening the serpent, because you either hit it or you don't. There's no halfway with that. So if you're wondering, you didn't hit it.
and nobody hits it like you hit it.
Oh no, he hits it.
Well, okay, he hits it. He's teaching it.
So we said we're right at about an hour. Okay, so before we end with last, messages before we end that kind of thing, I always like to end before we end with some type of tangible something that we can do right now today, employ to help us with this kind of thing. So we've talked about, understanding, discerning whether or not it's our own trauma history, these kinds of things, or if it's actually something going on there. Let's talk about, okay, what to do. We talked about, obviously reach out for therapy and those kind of things. But until I can get into therapy or until I can get in with you, what can I do right now to help me besides protecting what I'm consuming on a daily basis, those kind of things? Is there any type of go-to? I already know the answer, but for our audience,
Yes,
is there
and
any
the
kind of
answer is choose yourself every single day. Make you a priority, and you must become the most important person in your own life because
Absolutely.
nobody else can do that for you. And then you've got to stay grateful, you've got to stay calm, you've got to stay centered and in the moment. And one of the things I'd like to do is point you to my TikTok. If you go to my TikTok, Regina Roche Consulting, there is a TikTok in my history. It's got over 1,400 views. So it's the one TikTok with the most views. In there is a technique that I teach every one of my clients called head art cohesion. And that skill, that technique in and of itself is very powerful in helping people stay centered and grounded.
Mhm. Absolutely. And what I would say is, in order for any ritual or practice to work for you, you have to believe in it, right? And it's okay to be a little skeptical. It's not okay to be closed. So I would say is remember, the more you do something, the more you practice it, the better you get at it. So choose your herb. Choose Palo Santo, choose sage. By the way, cedar is a really good kick in the ass to negative energy. Okay.
Yeah.
You can learn how to smudge yourself. You can learn how to smudge your property. You can learn how to pray over it. You can learn all these practices that will make your home feel better and therefore make you feel better, right? You can also remember what you speak is so important. Practice your affirmations of safety, of wellness. And my favorite thing is this: you have to disconnect from the world around you that is screaming so that you can hear the voice of God. So stop, right? So block out the world, go away from the TV, close your eyes, put on a blindfold, whatever you want to do 3 deep, powerful breaths, right? Just the inhale, the exhale, the inhale, the exhale, the inhale, hold it for a minute, let the rest of the world go away, and be still. Your answers are here. But the only way to hear the whispers of God above the world around you that loves to scream is to find the place where you meet God, and that is in the quantum.
Yes, very well articulated, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I'll have a TikTok. I mean, I have a TikTok. Nobody's on it. So yeah, you want to come look at my TikTok?
Same. I'm just now getting on there. I get so frustrated too because I'm like, of all the things that I can do, I have no idea how to do TikTok and I
I don't
hate
know
it.
how to do the TikTok. It's like so frustrating. I'm old school Facebook and I'm like,
Like
I
I
know.
hate the thing.
Yeah, so you know, follow the expert in narcissistic abuse recovery,
Yes,
and
yes.
then throw us some love on the TikTok as well.
Right.
Thank you again, Inanna, for
So
being on
much.
the-
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Regina. It's always my pleasure. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm very
I
grateful.
love you
Absolutely.
both so much. Thank you so much for your
This was
time.
so much fun. Let's
Yeah.
do it again soon.
Yes,
Yeah,
let's do it
absolutely.
again.
For the next one.
Yes.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Stay safe, everyone. I love you.
Love
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Bye. She's all excited.